What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Thursday, another episode of Simply Sessions. We've got our buddy Nico standing in the wings, waiting to fill us in on all the craziness that's been going on this week. I don't know about you, but I've been having a fantastic time this week. It has been, I don't know. I was just telling Nico backstage, I was busting the gut all week with everything going on with the New York Times and Pierre Richard. And hasn't it been grand? We're going to reminisce on it momentarily. Plus, lots of stuff to talk about. Something about Fidelity. We got some stuff going on state by state in regards to mining as well. Lots of stuff to cover. Of course, this is live. Anything can happen. So I defer to my good friend Bill here.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
If you have not already, like, subscribe, share, all those things. They help a ton in getting this content in front of more eyeballs. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we bring in Nico, let's take a look at where we are in the market right now. This is timechaincalendar.com. Yes, indeed, I did get it up and running again. Thanks to TC for helping that out. For some reason, it just wouldn't load for me. Anyways, all figured out. Back to my favorite dashboard. We're sitting at 30,358 cuck bucks per coin. A single US dollar will pick you up 3,294 sats. In terms of fees, next block, you're looking at 24 sats per byte. If you're willing to wait a little bit, 11 sats per byte should do you. Mempool, not the worst we've seen it, still full, right? 329 megabytes when most mempools sit at around 300. So it's purging any transactions that are below 1.87 sats per byte. 92.12% of all Bitcoin have been mined. That's 19.35 million of them. And TikTok next block chugging away. Shout out to sponsors of the show, hodlhodl.com. If you're buying Bitcoin and you got a few things that are priorities in mind, things like peer-to-peer transactions, things like instant self-custody and no KYC, not having to give up all your personal information, hodl is perfect for you then. You can sign up in minutes with nothing more than an email address. You can be trading peer-to-peer, stacking non-KYC sats. It's super easy. Again, you scroll down on the main page, pick a currency, pick a payment method, pick an amount, view the offers, and start on your merry way. They also have a lending platform in which nothing is ever rehypothecated. You can check them out at hodlhodl.com. Link is down below in the show notes. Now, when you do get your non-KYC sats, you're going to want to store it in something badass, something perhaps like the Cold Card Mark IV. I love my Cold Card. I got one of them kicking around right here. Anyways, the thing is a beast. So many awesome features. I use it regularly with Sparrow Wallet on desktop, Nunchuck on mobile. But CoinKite just has all the great stuff. Tap Signer, CoinKite cards, things like the block clock, the open dime, the sats card, all kinds of great stuff. Also coming down the pipe, the Cold Card Q1 looks insane. If you want to check out all their stuff, coinkite.com, use code BTC Sessions for 5% off everything in the store. Now, I did mention Nunchuck here. So if you're looking to move beyond single sig options and dive into multi-sig, then perhaps check out the Nunchuck Honey Badger package. This is an assisted multi-sig plan, a 204 multi-sig with baked-in inheritance planning. It's super easy. It's all over mobile. And you can use things like the Cold Card and the Tap Signer and a whole bunch of other options. And it works beautifully. It's super simple. It walks you through every step of the way so that you know that your next of kin are going to get the sats that you want them to get with no issues. And one of my favorite things, no KYC. You don't have to give up any personal information to get set up with this thing. It's beautiful. Check it out. Check out my tutorial, nunchuck.io. And finally, shout out to start9.com, your sovereign computing solution. These guys are insane. These guys are incredible. I love running my full Bitcoin stack on a Start9 Embassy. So you can run Bitcoin Core, your Lightning node, things like mempool.space, join market, all the Bitcoin peripherals. You can run and host your own data, passwords, files, photos. You can also run Nostr relays and Nostr clients. It's an absolute beast. You can check out start9.com. You can grab an Embassy 1, which is kind of your base level, entry level option, or an Embassy Pro, which is a beast of a computer, and you can host your whole life on that thing. So check them out, start9.com, and I got a tutorial on them as well. Just a couple quick shout outs, a few sat boostograms, Michael with the hearts. We got cryosats, sprinkling sats everywhere, and Dale saying thanks for the show, and Joey saying, since hitting 30K, all I hear is people wanting Bitcoin to go up. I, on the other hand, want Bitcoin to go down. No, not Bitcoin. I'm talking about Benico, tip touching ceremony, hashtag touch tribe, wait, I can't. There's too many T's. The T's, tip touch tribe. Holy crap. Nico, I'm bringing you in. What do you feel about the Tip Touch Tribe?
Titch Touch Tribe. Wow. Okay. All right. I'll take it. Hashtag Benico. 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 Benico or Benico? Benico.
I feel like Joey has got all the great hashtags. I don't like. We just need to hire him for marketing, I think. Like how do we top? Like, I love that he made an acronym for BTC. Benico tip touching ceremony. Amazing.
I can't wait for this, bro. It's gonna be.
Yeah.
We're gonna get gaudy music. You know, like
we gotta. I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna get some connections going. We gotta like we'll cement in a little bit of time. When do you get into town, by the way? Well, I guess you're like
I live here, dude.
Yeah, right. So like, yeah. I'm getting in on the Monday.
Okay.
And so we'll be around. Yeah, we'll figure something out. We'll chat after this and get something. I feel like this should just be like an open thing where plebs can come and hang out. We'll bleach on the beach or something.
Dude, the Bitcoiners have been, I think they locked down a place in Miami Ironside. There's like a Bitcoin type of place where, you know, Bitcoiners could commingle and stuff. So that might be something to look into.
That might be a thing. All right. Well, we'll figure it out. Let's do some redecorating in here. Shabam.
Boom.
Awesome. So man, I mean, where are we starting here? Because I know what has tickled my fancy this week, but where do you want to take this first? What should I be pulling up here?
Let's pull up the articles, and then we'll kind of get to it, bro. Some crazy things happened and lots of coincidences. I think, and this is a very strong tweet. I'm just gonna emphasize that right in the beginning, but I stand by every word of it. But it's the theory that we've been talking about a lot on Simply Sessions, which is the disintermediation of information, right? The internet has allowed, like what we're doing right now, we're talking to people directly. 10, 20 years ago, that wasn't the case, bro. You would have to get your information either through a handful of TV channels or through a handful of media institutions, one of which was the New York Times. So their ability to craft the narrative was very, very powerful. Mm-hmm. And now the internet has empowered everybody. But anyways, speaking of the New York Times, they released a hit piece for anyone who's not in the know, specifically on, again, trashing Bitcoin mining. It says Bitcoin mines cash in on electricity by devouring it, selling it, and even turning it off. And they cause immense pollution. In many cases, the public pays the price, right? This is also another headline by the New York Times. It says, El Salvador decimated its ruthless gangs, but at what cost? In the years since El Salvador declared a state of emergency, the government has delivered a stunning blow to the gangs that were once the ultimate authority in much of the country. And if you read further in that article, it says that is somehow a danger to democracy. So I took some time to look back into the history of the New York Times, right? So what is the New York Times? What institution? What type of reporting has come out of them? And there's a couple things, right? So I said, remember when the New York Times originally broke the story that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, which led to the invasion of Iraq? Remember when the New York Times intentionally covered up the Holodomor, which is the Ukrainian Holocaust, the murder of millions of Ukrainians by Stalin. The New York Times has the blood of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of individuals on their hands. They're not on the side of human freedom and prosperity. They're on the side of tyranny, death, destruction, despair. And I stand by those words. They're very powerful words, but I stand by them. Here is a Fox News article, and it goes into the details of what exactly this New York Times reporter did. His name was Walter Duranty. Apparently, he covered up he denied the existence of a devastating famine in Ukraine between 1932 and 1933. It went on to say that an estimated 5 to 7 million people were killed in that famine. There's a book that was released called The Gray Lady Winked. And on a trip to the U.S. Embassy in Berlin in the spring of 1931, Duranty made a confession to a State Department officer so stunning that the officer wrote it down verbatim and entered into the U.S. government record, quote, in agreement with New York Times and the Soviet authorities, official dispatches always reflected the official opinion of the Soviet government and not his own. And it's something very similar happens with the case in Iraq, the weapons of mass destruction. This is Judith Miller. She was a reporter for the New York Times, and she is known for her coverage of Iraq's weapons of mass destruction program both before and after the 2003 invasion, which was later discovered to have been based on inaccurate information from the intelligence community. So isn't that strange? 50 years apart, both times the New York Times has been caught basically not being journalists, but actually propagating information from governments, right? So it's interesting, that trend, right? Here's the original article in El Salvador, making it look all menacing. But here is the article, the specific article about the New York Times. I read you guys the quote, we've been covering it on Twitter this whole week. But I think I'll play you guys the rebuttal, right? Because they did say specifically is they cause immense pollution, right? So I'll play you guys. I'm not going to say better than Pierre Richard himself. So I'll play you guys the video in a little bit. But what I want to focus on is the power of the internet, right? The power of taking agency. So what the New York Times tried to do is that they tried to use the Twitter community post feature to basically label the video misinformation. We riled up the troops. Bitcoin Twitter riled up the troops together, and enough people downvoted that, basically said that community vote was unhelpful, and Twitter removed it, right? So this is the battleground of the internet. This is the narrative trench warfare that we are talking about, but it's also happening on other fronts at the same time. Right. This is something that dawned on me when I saw this happen, the power of just the individual to rebuke these once powerful institutions. I realized we are witnessing the complete collapse of the corporate media's legitimacy. Without their previous monopoly on mass distribution, they have to compete with the general public on equal footing. Their narratives, right? So these types of things no longer work. Like, and I'll show you guys. Like, look at the drone footage of what's happening. Well, there was an awesome Bitcoiner that kind of, has a background in photography, and he dove deep into that image specifically. And Rory said, either you're a completely clueless hack or you extended the bounds of your black point to wash the image out. See how there's zero color information below 80? This is altered, right? So again, they would have been able to get away with this just how they were able to get away with the weapons of mass destruction narrative. The problem that they have now is the internet. So if you could play the video, Ben, and I think it does a really good job of not only Pierre Richard rebuking the New York Times in a deadpan comedic fashion, but also an interview that Elon Musk had with the BBC. And again, you're seeing the cognitive dissonance by these legacy institutions. They don't know how to deal with people talking back, calling into question their very legitimacy itself.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Do you want Pierre up first then?
It's the same video. It's all in there.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, here we go.
We're here out in Rockdale, Texas. We've got lots of plants here. These plants are consuming CO2 and emitting oxygen, which is fantastic. When we measure CO2 out here, we're in the green. There are very low levels of CO2, 455 parts per million of CO2. Just fantastic reading. Rockdale has some of the freshest air I've ever breathed. So this is a great way to establish a baseline. We're going to go inside the mining facility and we're going to see how much is this number going to go up. If the number does not go up, then the mining rigs are not emitting any CO2. If the number goes down, that would be interesting as well. So let's find out. This is where the science happens. This is the largest Bitcoin mining facility in the United States. Outside, we were at 455 parts per million of CO2. Inside, we're at 428 parts per million of CO2. So CO2 levels actually decrease a little bit by entering this Bitcoin mining facility. That might just be a measurement error. But in any case, so far our going thesis is that Bitcoin mining does not emit any CO2 at all. But let's go to an air-cooled building and see if that's the case there as well. We're on the air intake side of this air-cooled mining facility. We're still out here in Rockdale at Riot's world-leading mining facility. We're at 452 CO2 parts per million. Still in the green. This is good. This is good. We're going to see in the hot aisle where the exhaust is coming out of how much CO2 is coming out of the Bitcoin mining rigs. Let's find out.
This is my favorite part. I love it.
All right.
It's so good.
We're gonna put the meter just right behind a fan so that we're blowing all of the air onto the meter, and we're gonna see what it's gonna change here in terms of measurements. We're still at 452 parts per million. This result makes me think that there might not be any CO2 coming out of the Bitcoin mining rig.
Might not.
I think the science is conclusive. The data shows Bitcoin mining does not emit any CO2.
So good.
Dude.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
You
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
and
said
actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only look
well,
at
hang on a second. You said you've seen
following.
more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
Well, then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
Then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I claimed...
You just lied.
What I claimed was there are many organizations that say that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not... I mean, right, and
literally
if you look at something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK, they will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I already said, I don't use that feed. But
then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know there's hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time.
Wow.
Dude, that is literally what I'm talking about, Ben. That is literally what I'm talking about. They are not used to the fact that we can talk back now, and they don't know what to do. And he had a bit of a Freudian slip. I don't know if you noticed, right? When Elon was like, "Hey, so like name me the example." He couldn't say, but he's like, there's been many organizations that have said that. Yeah. And that's that mindset, this mindset that it's like, look, we're the BBC, we're the New York Times, we are the authority on information, and just the internet is just completely destroying that, bro.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. It's
such a beautiful thing, like actually having, for a change. And like, again, everybody can be wrong about something. That's just, that's the reality of things. But up until very recently, it's just been, you hear it and you don't get to respond. Nobody gets to respond. It's just, this is what's there. And this is just what, you read it, and that's that you take it in. There's no back and forth. And now there is, and there's a growing sentiment of like, what if, especially amongst Bitcoiners, because, there's a topic that we know extremely well. And when you see that topic just completely, basically actual disinformation about that be spouted as absolute fact, you begin to wonder, well, how many other things that I don't understand, that I just take for granted the reporting is correct, is also very poorly reported. And, as you start to dig a lot of it, it's quite a bit. And so, yeah, it's very, and I mean, the Pierre Richard thing, like, okay, I've got to say, the best part is, I think I tweeted something to the tune of, Pierre Richard is an absolute artist when it comes to triggering people to the point where they will literally screech and scream and basically point the finger at themselves about how incorrect their baseline assumptions are, because he steered that conversation exactly where it needed to go. Right. The whole point, like, Pierre Richard knows the carbon accounting tactics of like how it works, of, there's the carbon obviously doesn't come out of the fucking machines. It comes out of like the point of production in that case. But the whole point is the responses that he got, where people are like, oh my God, what an idiot. This guy doesn't even know that we're not talking about the machines. We're talking about the grid and the power it uses. And then that inevitably leads, like, when you have every person, every environmentalist shrieking at the top of their lungs that obviously it's not the machines, it's the grid, it's the power that you're using. And you're like, oh, so how's this different from plugging in your EV? How's this different from plugging in your electric vehicle? How's this different from using your tumble dryer, which, by the way, tumble dryers domestically use twice as much power as Bitcoin? Like, how is that different? So what you're saying is, I like my thing, I don't like your thing.
Yep.
I don't like to use your thing, so you shouldn't be allowed to also use the same power with the exact same energy mix as I do.
Yep. Dude, that literally that, and then what's interesting, Ben, is that the cognitive dissonance when it got to that point, they didn't know what to respond. There was blocks. There was just like, no, this guy, what the BBC reported, and this is why I wanted to play that video, that like default response, like, you're racist. No, you're wrong. Like, there is you're an extremist. It's like, okay, but give me an example. It's like, but you are, that's the official narrative. What are you talking about?
Many organizations have told me that is what is happening.
Dude, it's so crazy. And you know what, though? I'm very proud of this community because we won that fight. We ratioed that New York Times tweet.
Yes.
We fought back that community note. We took it down, and now the riot video has more likes than the New York Times tweet.
Yeah.
So now they know. Oh, and by the way, around the same time, New York Times lost their official verification badge as well. And NPR was pulled down because they got butthurt that they were labeled a government-sponsored organization, right? Yeah. We are literally watching the disintermediation information in real time, and the disintermediation of money is happening as well, bro. And it's fucking fireworks. It's grade A entertainment.
Nico, I know this isn't simply Bitcoin, but I want to submit to the meme review. One that I dropped, a Pierre Richard one earlier this week. Just let me know what you think of this one. For those listening, audio only. It's the clips of Pierre in the field with the carbon detector, and but he's motioning to like the New York Times with the number of likes they got, and then he's closely inspecting the number of likes that Riot Platforms got, which was indeed more than New York Times. So.
Well, if it is the meme review, we have to review it. Cue the epic music. All right. I would give that a tiny Coca-Cola bottle. What about you, Ben?
That is absolutely tiny. I'm going to give, I know it's my own, but I'm going to give that a cold card in a custom BTC Sessions case.
Ooh. It's very, very good. Very, very good. Oh, wait. And hold on. It's over because the buzzer hit. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
We're already touching the tips. I could feel it. All right. Yeah. Okay. So
do you want your articles back up? What do we?
Yes, please. Articles back up. All right. In other news, let's talk about Coinbase. So they made the CEO, Brian Armstrong, CEO of one of the largest shitcoin casinos, made a big announcement. And you got to be thinking, like, why did he do that? Well, we know that recently Coinbase was warned by the SEC of potential securities charging. We know how Gary Gensler feels about shitcoins. He says that everything other than Bitcoin is a security. And we also know, based on this Bloomberg article, it's a bit old, but the vast majority of revenue, of trading volume in Coinbase is coming from shitcoins. 68% is coming from other shitcoins, and 16% is coming from Ethereum. Only 16% is coming from Bitcoin. So if the SEC gets its way, boy, oh boy, is Coinbase in trouble. And then coincidentally, lots of coincidence these days, Brian Armstrong says, hey, that Lightning stuff, maybe we should integrate it, which is really interesting because if they do integrate Lightning, that kind of defeats the narrative of a huge portion of shitcoins that they're selling the public, So it's interesting how market forces are doing what market forces do.
Yeah. I love that, again, the integration of Lightning means that all of the narrative around, Bitcoin is slow and expensive, and that's why you need all these other shit coins, that just gets decimated right out the gate, which is fantastic. By the way, no wonder they have so much volume on all those other shit coins. I don't know if you've seen what Coinbase looks like lately. Oh my God, it is online gambling to the max. It's scrolling marquees of like, this is up this percent, and check out this coin. It's brand new and has these bells and whistles. And it's literally just, you're inundated. There's flashing things, and it's just all shit you can buy and trade. And they email out and and I know this because I get like these one-on-one bookings with people, and they're like, and they always say like, all right, it's time for self-custody. And they're always like, yeah, I got my stuff on Coinbase. And they're like, I'm sorry. And they like apologize to me. Like, it's okay. I understand. We're fixing it. It's okay. I'll guide you through. But then then I have to go on Coinbase to be like, show them where stuff is and like how to do it. And I'm like, every time. It's awful. Also, did you see that Brian Armstrong offered to send $100 to Joe Hall?
And never did.
He's like, oh, I sent it to whatever, like Joe's Lightning address. And Joe was like, it didn't show up. Where's that at? And then we're trying to like, everybody's trying to decipher if he did like the Coinbase thing where you like send funds like via Coinbase to an email address, but like nobody knows, and he hasn't responded. And Joe wrote an article being like, Brian, where's my $100?
Dude, that's hilarious. Dude, Joe's the man. But yeah, bro, it's a shitcoin. Look, I forget who said this, but it was very true, right? You play shitcoin games, you get shitcoin prizes, bro. You know, so doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Anyways, other news, huge news, honestly, bro, is MicroStrategy. So, and I also got a video as well, but in a sec. So first of all, so MicroStrategy is basically acting like a Bitcoin ETF. I'll pull up the charts, which I usually never do, but let's pull them up for the sake of, you know, talking about this. So here's the MicroStrategy stock, and here is the Bitcoin stock. And as you can see, you know, especially as of late, really when they started their Bitcoin strategy, doesn't that look very similar to you?
It looks, they could be twins.
They could be twins, right?
It's almost as if this trades specifically on the Bitcoin allocation and has nothing to do with the company itself.
It's basically a Bitcoin ETF. Like, let's be clear, it's a Bitcoin ETF. Now, what's really interesting, though, is the fact of who has purchased MicroStrategy stock as of late. Fidelity. We know how Elizabeth Warren feels about Fidelity. We know how many trillions of dollars Fidelity has under assets. We know that Fidelity recently announced giving their clients or customers the ability to purchase Bitcoin and shitcoin Ethereum through their platform. Look at what they stocked up on. 28,000%. They bought 96,000 shares of MicroStrategy, and Bank of America brought 226,000 shares, an increase of 47,000% as of late. And it's interesting because Michael Saylor gave a hint of this at Pacific Bitcoin. Ben, can you play the clip?
Yeah, let's do it.
To buy Bitcoin. I told my broker at Merrill Lynch, I want to buy Bitcoin. Can you sell it to me? He said, I can't even talk about it. I get fired. I said, okay, you sure? He said, we don't cover it. I can't talk about it. We're afraid of it. I said, okay, well, I want to wire $175 million somewhere else. So I wired the money and I bought the Bitcoin. 2 years go by, and just last week, my secretary called me. She says, hey, Merrill Lynch sent a bunch of documents over and they want you to sign them. And I said, what? I didn't ask for anything. She said, well, you have to sign these documents so that you can buy Bitcoin with Bank of America, and they want you to sign them now. So now, you know, they wouldn't sell it to me, and now they're jamming it down my throat. Like, so that's like a leak for you guys. Like, presumably, if Merrill Lynch is going to all their clients saying, fill this out, I think the Bank of America has embraced Bitcoin.
Now it is confirmed that they have embraced Bitcoin. It is no longer a rumor. It is 100% confirmed they have embraced Bitcoin, because if not, they wouldn't be buying a Bitcoin ETF. And it makes you think, why is that the case? Well, Michael Saylor says it best. Consider a Bitcoin strategy. If you would have kept, you know, your assets or reserves in bonds, you're down 16%, in silver 12%, in gold 2%, NASDAQ 10%, S&P 500 22%, Bitcoin 152%. And now we know that Michael Saylor, the MicroStrategy stock, is basically following the price of Bitcoin, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see. I love that. I mean, it's very important that Michael Saylor had to pay the cost of tuition in Bitcoin, right? Mm-hmm. Like, nobody can avoid it. I'm very glad that he had a good head on his shoulders and just weathered it like a champ and continued stacking. And same with Bukele. It's the price of tuition leaves no one behind. Like, you've got to get in the door somehow, and at some point you're going to have to sit through those drawdowns. And that's just the reality. You have to understand what you own so that you understand not to get rid of it.
Yep. Dude, and honestly, that's one of my favorite things about Bitcoin, Ben, is that it spares no one. Yeah. You're equal. You have to get in line like everybody else. Michael Saylor might have a lot more purchasing power than, the rest of us, but hey, he still had to get in line. Still had to endure his first bear market. He's just about positive right now. We're over 30K. We're at $30,384 right now. So he's just about positive. but man, he still had to go through it. And you know what? I saw him at Pacific Bitcoin, man, and that was around the near bottom of the Bitcoin price, bro. And you know, bro, you know what? For most plebs, like most of us, right? We're down 80%, right? You know, it's still painful. Money's completely relative, bro. But could you imagine being down billions upon billions upon billions of dollars and being basically responsible for your shareholders? So your shareholders will hold you accountable. Yeah. I can't imagine what that stress must have been like.
Oh, and having the wherewithal to be like, listen, I know what's up, but like, I'm sure what was crippling pressure at the time, to be like, no, this is the correct thing to do. And I'm going to stay the course. And well, here we are. I think he's going to be having a much better coming couple of years than the past year.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Anyways, so moving on. Yeah, dude, him and Bukele, they're going to be vindicated. It's vindication, and then all hell's going to break loose because companies and nation states are going to look and be like, whoa, that Bitcoin thing, that looks quite nice. Anyways, more on the separation of money and state front. So we all know how the Texas bill was aggressive, trying to take away Bitcoin mining's incentives. We know how the federal government, the current administration, feels about Bitcoin mining. We have enemies in the New York State Assembly that basically passed a mining moratorium, making it very difficult to mine within the state. We have Elizabeth Warren's, these are all social attacks, right? Bitcoin's using too much energy, but Pierre Richard summarized it perfectly. It's not polluting anything. It's not whatever. It's just taking electricity from everywhere else. And what's interesting and what's never talked about, right, is the fact that Bitcoin mining uses energy that was already going to waste, because if it wasn't, then it wouldn't be economically viable to use that said energy. That's why it's so cheap. That's why Bitcoin miners go to those specific locations, right? A lot of energy supply, but not that much demand. Well, anyways, on the state front, just how individual states are fighting back against central bank digital currencies, like the state of Florida, like North Dakota. Also, it looks like, and shout out to Dennis Porter, you got to give him credit, right? Dennis has really pushed this forward and has really codified protecting Bitcoin miners' rights in certain states. So what's interesting is that this all happened around the same time in the state of Arkansas. The bill states that a digital asset mining business may operate in the state if the digital asset mining business complies with state law concerning business guidelines and tax policy. A person that is engaged in home digital asset mining or that has digital asset mining businesses should not be considered a money transmitter under the Uniform Money Services Act. Discrimination against digital asset mining businesses prohibited. And also in Montana, something very similar as well, passed 64 to 35. The bill, entitled An Act Generally Revising Cryptocurrency Law, prohibits discriminatory digital asset mining utility rates, limits local governments' powers related to digital asset mining, as well as discriminatory taxation of the use of cryptocurrency as a payment method, and frames digital assets as personal property. Whereas digital asset mining provides positive economic value for individuals and companies throughout the United States, and whereas the state of Montana wants to protect the right of individuals and businesses to mine digital assets and create legal certainty for the digital asset mining industry, and whereas digital assets mining has the potential to stabilize the grid and provide revenue for infrastructure upgrades statewide. Take that, New York Times. This week was not for you guys. It was not for you guys whatsoever. Anyways, what are your thoughts, Ben?
Man. I mean, it's very interesting to see, and it's unique. This is something very unique to the US, the state by state, approach to things where the individual states have much more power than, up here in Canada where I am, where the provinces, like, they kind of have to bow much more to the federal government than you guys do. And so what's going to result from this is miners will go where they're treated best. It is the sovereign individual, but instead it's the sovereign mining company that will be, packing up and moving next door. It's going to be an exodus of miners wherever it doesn't make economic sense. And so, you're going to have states that lose out on a ton of revenue if they don't get friendly with this stuff. And what you may even find is the ones that are harsh on it now and lose miners. Well, when those miners already reallocate all and move everything to a friendlier state, well, if they want those miners back, they're not going to be able to just offer the same thing that the state that they're now currently in is offering. They're going to have to offer a better deal in order to entice them, to make the economic sense for them to incur the cost of moving again, right? Yeah. So they're going to have to offer way better deals. They're going to end up screwing themselves even more if they want that economic activity back. So people have got to be forward thinking about this. And if they're not, well, I mean, you're kind of shit out of luck. You're going to have to, again, that's their cost of tuition, right?
Yep. That's their cost of tuition. And again, it's, this is what we've been talking about. We were talking about it during the news segment. We were talking about it during the news segment. We were talking about it in the beginning, Ben. Like, this is a disintermediation of information and the disintermediation of money, right? Yeah. And politicians have been using both those things, monopoly on information and monopoly on money, in order to basically control people. And now you're seeing the rise of sovereign individuals choosing on an individual basis what information they choose to consume and what money they choose to use, therefore empowering them. And now they're just going to go to where they're treated best. You can't, if you decide to go totalitarian, hello, Salvador. Let's rename our shows, bro. El BTC Sessions, La Simply Bitcoin. We'll just speak in Spanish from now on.
BTC Sesiones.
Oh man.
Yeah. No, it's. I'm a fan of the direction we're heading. I mean, the direction we're heading is going to have a lot more resistance, but individuals that care are heading that way regardless. And it's going to be a bumpy road to get there, but like, you're seeing more people directionally saying, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me what to think. You can't tell me what to earn and how to use my money. All of these things where people are again, they're taking their sovereignty into their own hands. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And yeah, man.
And literally, this is why we will win. Yeah. Anyways, Ben, it's been an honor and a privilege. Always love coming on your show, brother. And guys, this was your Simply Just. I love doing that.
Thanks, man. And shout out to everybody over on the Simply Bitcoin channel. Thanks for being here and joining the two of us. And we'll see you next week, man.
Peace, Ben.
All right, later. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to cap us off with a couple more things before we tap out here. Just a couple